Am I the a-hole? I refuse to let my colleague take credit for my idea in a meeting. So last week in a team meeting, one of my colleagues, Melissa, tried to present an idea that I had shared with her privately the day before. For context, our manager had asked everyone to brainstorm solutions to a recurring issue we've been facing with client communication. It's been a problem for months, emails going unanswered, misaligned expectations, and general frustration on both sides. So I'd been thinking about it a lot. Over a few evenings, I put together a simple but practical framework to help organize our client touchpoints, track responses, and make sure no one was falling through the cracks. I was actually pretty excited about it because I felt like it could genuinely improve how we work. The next morning, Melissa and I had coffee together. We often bounce ideas off each other casually, so I mentioned my framework to her and explained how I thought it could help. She seemed supportive and even added a couple of small suggestions. I honestly thought she was just being a good teammate. Fast forward to the meeting. The manager asks for ideas, and before I can even open my mouth, Melissa starts outlining my exact framework, almost word for word. I was stunned. For a second, I sat there wondering if I had misheard, but nope. It was definitely my idea, down to the specific examples I had given her. I could feel my face getting hot, but I spoke up and said something like, "Actually, that's something I've been working on recently. I'd be happy to share the details." The room got quiet for a moment, and it felt awkward. Melissa gave me this sharp look but stopped talking, and my manager encouraged me to go ahead and present what I had. I walked everyone through the framework, and they seemed to like it. After the meeting, Melissa pulled me aside and told me I embarrassed her and made her look bad in front of the team. She said I should have just let her finish and that it wasn't a big deal because we're all on the same side, and credit doesn't really matter as long as the team succeeds. But the thing is, it does matter. Especially because this isn't the first time I've seen her present other people's ideas as her own. It was just the first time she did it to me directly. Now I'm stuck wondering if I came across as petty or confrontational for speaking up in the moment. Am I the a-hole for not letting my colleague take credit for my idea? Now for the top comments. Credit does matter. End of story. Bet she won't do that with you anymore. When you have a voice and are willing to deliver a slap of embarrassment publicly, this sort of BS quickly stops, and then others start to clue in. Afterward, Melissa told me I embarrassed her and made her look bad in front of the team. Yes, that is because she doesn't know how to work in a team. She did it to herself, not the a-hole. That's how I feel too. I didn't want to embarrass her, but she really put herself in that position by trying to take credit in the first place. I'd rather deal with a little awkwardness than let people think my work belongs to someone else. Hopefully this sets a boundary going forward. Not the a-hole. She was embarrassed because you called her out for stealing. If credit didn't matter, it wouldn't have mattered that you explained it or that they found out she wasn't the one who had the idea. Time to stop sharing your ideas with her. What a trifling witch. Thanks. If credit truly didn't matter, then she wouldn't have cared who presented it. The fact that she got upset afterward really showed me she knew what she was doing. I definitely won't be sharing my ideas with her anymore. It's weird as heck she even tried to pass it off like it was hers. You were right there. I would honestly assume she's done this before, both behind people's backs and right in front of them, and counted on people being too polite to call out her BS. Nobody starts out stealing people's ideas for the very first time, right in front of their own damn face in a meeting. Nah, not the a-hole, man. You gotta stand up for yourself, especially in the workplace. Everybody's hustling to get ahead, you know? If your work's being used, you deserve the credit. Simple as that. Suck it up, Melissa. And hey, can't help but think, maybe Mel felt threatened by your big brain moves. Keep doing you, bud. Haha, thanks. I appreciate that. I don't usually like confrontation, but I felt like if I stayed quiet this time, it'd just keep happening. Maybe you're right and she felt threatened, but honestly, I'd rather just be recognized for my own work than get caught up in that kind of office politics. Next story. Am I the a-hole for reporting a teacher who gave my son detention for checking his glucose monitor during a test? So I have a son who is 13 male and has type 1 diabetes. He has a 504 plan on file, with a school that explicitly allows him to check his CGM, continuous glucose monitor, and treat lows or highs during instruction, quizzes, and tests. It also allows him to carry fast-acting carbs like glucose tabs or juice boxes with him at all times. This plan isn't just a suggestion, it's a legally binding accommodation to make sure he can safely participate in school. During a math exam last week, his sensor buzzed. He raised his hand and told his teacher, 40s male, that he needed to check his blood sugar. Instead of letting him do so, the teacher told him, "No electronics, period," and instructed him to wait until the end of the test. My son told me he started to feel shaky, and because he knows how quickly things can get dangerous, he quickly glanced at his CGM screen to see his number. At that point, the teacher confiscated the receiver and assigned him detention for using a device during a test. By the time my son got to the nurse, she confirmed he was dropping fast and immediately gave him juice. She also documented the incident and reminded my son that he was absolutely allowed to check his CGM anytime. When I heard about this, I emailed the teacher with a copy of the 504 plan attached, politely reminding him of my son's rights. His response was basically, "Rules have to be consistent, and allowing devices during tests creates the appearance of cheating." That was when I escalated. I asked the assistant principal to remove the detention and retrain staff on medical accommodations. Thankfully, the assistant principal reversed the detention quickly, but the teacher didn't let it go. In the next class, in front of everyone, he doubled down and said that testing integrity comes first and that rules are rules. My son came home embarrassed and humiliated, worried that his classmates now see him as someone who cheated during a test. At that point, I filed a formal incident report with the principal and district compliance office. I'm not going to sit around and wait for the next low blood sugar episode to turn into an ambulance ride, just so a teacher feels like the rules are being enforced. A 2-second glance at a CGM does not hand out test answers, but refusing to allow it can absolutely create a medical emergency. I followed every step of the plan, provided documentation, and only escalated when my son was punished for managing a condition the school already agreed to support. Protecting my kid's health will always come before protecting a blanket rule. Am I the a-hole for pushing back this hard? Hire an attorney to handle that school. Thank you. I'm calling an attorney Monday, CCing the District 504 coordinator, and filing with OCR. Detention wiped, written apology, staff-wide ADA training, and he's off proctoring until he can read a damn 504. My kid's blood sugar isn't extra credit. If the school drags its feet, they can explain it to my lawyer at a board meeting. That teacher may not be so lucky next time and cause a hospitalization or death. He needs serious retraining or dismissal. Yep, preach. A 2-second glance to not faceplant isn't killing test integrity. What wrecks it is a grown man ignoring a written plan because his ego needs a win. We've got a new proctor, juice on the desk, and my kid isn't asking permission to stay conscious ever again. Don't forget to include public apology from teacher in front of the entire student body in your list of demands. He endangered your son and publicly shamed him in front of his peers for a medical necessity. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. And that teacher is a walking liability who cares more about his power trip than your kid not going into a diabetic coma. Yeah, exactly. Dude's flexing over a beeping medical alert like it's contraband, while my kid is shaking. He humiliated my kid in front of the class and acted proud of it. If he needs a power trip so bad, he can go bully a stapler. New proctor, juice on the desk, instructions in giant letters. I'm done babysitting a grown man's feelings while my kid fights his own body. Him confiscating the medical device is a huge issue. Him ignoring your son's medical emergency is also a huge issue. These two facts of the situation warrant an immediate response for your son's safety. As soon as possible, you and your lawyer go to the school to demand action. Son gets moved to a new class if possible. Teacher immediately suspended for endangerment of a minor's life. Bring a doctor's letter explaining the seriousness of the situation. Next story. Told a colleague I would never want her as a mother-in-law. Hi 30 female. Work with Anna 57 female. Anna is a proud mom. She constantly talks about her son, who's a doctor. Honestly, I don't mind listening. I'm genuinely happy for her and think it's sweet that she's proud of his accomplishments. But over the past few months, she has started trying to get me to go on a date with him. At first, I laughed it off politely and told her I wasn't interested, but she kept bringing it up. She would make little comments like, "You and my son would make such a cute couple," or "You're exactly the kind of girl my son should settle down with." I've tried to be gracious about it, but I've been very clear that I am not interested in being set up with anyone. The last straw for me was when she actually gave my phone number to her son without asking me. I found out when he texted me out of the blue, introducing himself. He wasn't pushy. In fact, he was polite. But I never replied because I felt uncomfortable. I had never given Anna permission to share my number, and it felt like a real overstep. Fast forward to last Friday. We were having lunch with the team, just a casual get-together. The topic of marriage and kids came up, which in my culture is a common but frankly very nosy topic. One of my other colleagues asked me what my plans were. Was I dating anyone? Did I want to get married? Did I want children? I told them honestly that I do hope to find a lifetime partner one day, but I don't see myself becoming a mother. That's a personal decision I've thought about a lot, and I'm at peace with it. Anna immediately gasped dramatically and said, "Oh, I would never want you to be my daughter-in-law. No mother would want to see her son marry a girl who hates kids." The comment stung, not because I want to be her daughter-in-law, I don't, but because it felt judgmental and dismissive of my personal choice. So I smiled and said, "Well, I would also never want you as my mother-in-law. Isn't it amazing how our dreams align?" Some of my colleagues, especially those closer to my age, laughed at the comment. It lightened the mood for me, but apparently not for everyone. Anna looked shocked, and later that day, one of her close friends at work told me that I was rude and should have just let Anna's comment slide. Now I'm wondering if I went too far. I know my response was a little sharp, but I also feel like Anna has been crossing boundaries for a while. I was polite at first, but she ignored my no. So, am I the a-hole for saying what I said? She was rude and shouldn't have made the comment. You matched her energy, as they say. In our culture, it's incredibly rude to talk back to an elderly. Hence, I posted. But yeah, not even my mom cares about me not wanting kids. She'd be happy with grandcats. She's not related to you and your work colleagues, so the whole Asian call everyone aunt or uncle, be polite, etc. needs to be adjusted to workplace norms. And 57 is not elderly. This is the bit I find rude, lol. Since when did "I don't want to be a mother" mean you hate kids? I know, I do love kids, but I want a child-free home. Guess it was a different time for them. Being old doesn't mean you can say what you want. Not the a-hole. Well, she can say what she wants, but not entitled to get it. Initially, she wanted OP as a potential daughter-in-law, so she can say that. Things changed when OP replied as she did, and was equally entitled to say what she does and doesn't want. The colleague sounds like a real Karen. Last story. Am I the a-hole for getting upset that my boyfriend prioritized corporate gossip over me? I, 21 female, pregnant, and my boyfriend, 24 male, were visiting his parents in another city. Yesterday, he suddenly decided we had to drive back home a day earlier because he needed to drop off a paper at his office. I didn't really have a choice. He just said, "We're leaving," and I went along. It was a long drive, and by the time we got back, I was exhausted and had a headache. When we reached his office, he told me to wait in the car because he just had to hand over the paper. I thought it would take 2 minutes. Instead, he left, and then I saw him sitting outside with his co-worker smoking and laughing. He waved at me to come over. I was annoyed because I had told him I wanted to go home and rest, but I had to take our cat, Eloise, out of the car because it was too hot. The first thing everyone did when they saw me was look at my pregnant belly. I told him again, "I want to go home." He said, "Wait a bit, I have something to tell them. Let's go upstairs for coffee." I said, "No, I'll go home alone." He laughed and said, "Well, I have the car keys." His coworkers also laughed. Then he said, "She's just acting like this because she's tired." I felt humiliated in front of strangers. He dragged me upstairs with him into the kitchen area with his colleagues. I thought maybe he had something work-related to discuss, but nope. It was just gossip about a fight between 2 coworkers who had screamed at each other and gotten fired. They were reenacting it word for word, and my boyfriend was asking a million questions like, what did the team lead say? And what did you write in the group chat after? At that point, I was literally praying the team lead would show up and tell him to go home, because clearly I couldn't convince him. Meanwhile, I was sitting there like an accessory. And the worst part, he was passing my cat Eloise around to whoever wanted to hold her, without even asking me. A girl said, "Can I pet her?" And he literally just handed her over. The irony? He was there to submit a sick leave form. Officially, he was sick. But instead of being home resting, he was sitting at the office gossiping and showing off his pregnant girlfriend and cat. I felt like I, and Eloise, were treated like objects he couldn't leave behind, not like actual people with needs. I told him many times I don't want to go upstairs with him anymore, that I'm not his assistant, but he keeps saying, "You don't need to feel uncomfortable." So, am I the a-hole for being upset? That was stupid on his part. He's supposed to be going on sick leave, but he's seen hanging around work, joking with his coworkers. His request for leave could have been denied. He certainly showed no consideration for your feelings. I hope you had a serious discussion about how this made you feel. He owes you an apology. I hope this is just a one-off and not a pattern of his thoughtlessness. Congrats on your upcoming bundle of joy. Depends on what he is on sick leave for. You would be correct if he had the flu. If it was for breaking a leg, you couldn't necessarily do your job but wouldn't stop you from hanging out with your coworkers gossiping. It depends. There could be liability issues. Must be more serious than the flu. Wouldn't need formal sick leave for that. Perhaps an operation? Would be helpful to know. OP, what is the nature of his sick leave request? And for how long? His sick leave was from Monday to Friday. Today, his dad is a doctor and signed it. I don't know what he wrote though. I think flu. No, not the a-hole. These are very controlling behaviors. By controlling, I mean he refused to give you the car keys, forced you to socialize with his co-workers, and humiliated you in front of his co-workers. He prioritized his own desire to spend time with his co-workers over your discomfort. These are the behaviors of someone who doesn't care about you, and while he might not be abusive now, these behaviors often escalate when you become more locked into a relationship, usually after marriage or having a baby. If you stay with him, take a set of house keys with you at all times while you are with him so you are not trapped. Keep money on you in case you need to get a ride somewhere. If you have a ride-share app like Uber, keep it connected to your account only so he can't disable it. Keep a bank account in your name only. As an aside, he also sounds like an idiot, coming in with a sick note and hanging out to gossip with his co-workers. I'd also recommend reading Why Does He Do That? And see if it resonates with you.